All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, everybody. I should warn you before I start that part of this talk was written with the help of AI. So all the errors are mine and all the hallucinations are the AI. So it should, be decent. Anyway, here, this talk is about an idea that came to me because I work in the customer data platform area, and I was sort of thinking, how do these two things match? Can we match AI with customer data, and how does it work? So this is sort of the talk that's about this. So if my clicker works, there we go. So first of all, a quick introduction. So I have a lot of experience in digital, building digital solutions, so like CMS, CDP, and others. I'm also the creator of the Apache Unomi project, and I'm still the PMC chair. I'm the CEO of I Know You, which is a new company that I just started that's going to be helping bringing Unomi to a larger market. And I really enjoy challenges, including public speaking. So, it's really something that drives me a lot. And of course, I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe in open source, and especially the work here at the ASF. I have two current ventures. And so I Know You is really my startup that I'm just starting now. It's my third company. And really it's the idea to make the technology more accessible, especially also explaining what it is and how it's useful. And also providing consulting and everything else that could be related to the project. The other side is completely different. I'm also involved with a company in the healthcare business, and that's really focused on highly structured and highly personalized data. And what's really interesting is to try to see how we can start bridging these two worlds between customer data and patient data. And so this is why I'm working on both aspects at the same time and seeing what's possible and what's not possible. So today, I'm going to talk quickly about what a CDP is. I think it's something that's not very well known. Then we'll talk about Unomi itself. Then maybe I could get a quick show of hands. Who doesn't know what MCP is? Model Context Protocol by Anthropic. Okay, so I'll go pretty quickly over that because I saw a few talks already talked about that. I'll talk about how you can integrate LLMs, AI, and Unomi. And finally, because I like living dangerously, I'll try a live demo, and probably things will go wrong, so you'll be entertained. So one of the problems that we have with AI is something I call the AI amnesia. And if you're using tools like ChatGPT or Claude, you'll find that you're often saying the same thing over and over again to it because you have to give it context. And so those contexts are limited, mostly because of the technology. And that restricts, for example, the possibility of personalization. And for example, you have the LLM say, I don't know what you're talking about, or I don't recall. It's getting better. I mean, a lot of companies are trying to address this, but I don't know if users of ChatGPT here have seen this, but I currently have my memory full in ChatGPT all the time. And I end up managing that memory and having to choose what I want to delete and stuff so that I can remember more. It's a nuisance, and it's not very user-friendly. So, coming to customer data platforms, what are those? So they could serve as a memory. So basically, a customer data platform is a unified persistent store that stores all the information that a company has about a customer. So you can really think of it as an opinionated data store. So where you would have data lake houses that have all kinds of data about customers that's sort of mixed up and you don't really know what's related to which customer. you can actually use the output of a data lakehouse and store it in a CDP, because the CDP will then say, okay, this is the data related to the profile of a customer, this is his behavior, this is the events he's generated over time and stuff like that. So it makes it really simple to integrate all the data about a customer into a central system. One of the other things that's really interesting is that it enables real-time data activation, and meaning that you can react in real time to what a customer is doing. A customer could be calling a support line. He could be entering a ticket in your support system. You could all do all of that in real time. On another very important point, especially with legislation that's coming in, is all the management of consent and privacy. If you have a system that can centralize data or integrate with a lot of systems, because it doesn't have to necessarily centralize it, just to integrate it, it can also act as the centralized system for managing consent and including deletion. Because now maybe a customer says, I don't want you to retain all this data. I want you to get done with it. It's also possible to do segmentation. So you can, based on whatever's in the profile that you've aggregated from different sources, say, okay, this customer is in this segment, or you can start segmenting them however you want. And the rules engine is usually a part of a CDP, which is really the part that enables you to react in real time. So whenever something happens, boom, it triggers rules that can then react and call other systems. So if we put that back into the context of AI, so it's a storage of everything we know about a customer or a user, and it survives beyond conversations, and it will keep also all the information under your control, meaning that instead of sending all that data to OpenAI or Anthropic or others, you as a company or as an individual, you keep that data within your own CDP, and only you know about it. So Apache Unomi is a project that was created at the foundation a while ago. And so it's the first open source CDP. There was no such thing as an open source CDP before, because if there were, we would have used that in my previous company. We did not want to write this. So yeah, the idea here was that if we're going to talk about customer data, stuff that's really important to both the customer and the companies, it should be done in the open. That was really the idea. And we couldn't think of a better place to do it than the Apache Foundation. The idea was also to have first-party data control, meaning that you're not sending data to Google, you're not sending data to a third party that will not only collect a lot of data, but if, for example, if you want to have full data access to all the data you send to Google Analytics, does anybody know how much it costs? $200,000 a year to access data that you sent to Google. So there's a problem here. And the thing also with Unomi is that it was designed for large enterprises to be able to use it. So we're talking tens of millions of profiles. We're talking hundreds of millions of events, large things. And of course, it's also extensible, meaning it has a plugin architecture. It also has ways to extend through rules. So as I said, Unomi has profile management. It can collect events. Events is just like a user clicked here, or as I said, he made a phone call and we have a system to record that. The segmentation engine, which can dynamically put profiles in or pull them out of segments. And finally, the rules engine that triggers actions that are based on either simple or complex conditions. Now the MCP, so here I'm not going to spend too much time on it as you're familiar with it, but I do want to mention something. You heard a lot about AIs using tools. And tools are just little commands that, the AI, for example, will search the web, or it will, I don't know, read a file. And Anthropic was really smart when they created this standard, and because they thought rather than having each single AI vendor do its own thing, there should be a standard for it. And when I saw this, it blew my mind. And over the weekend, it was released on Friday, and over the weekend, I wrote the first MCP server for Unomi, which turned out to be the first open source MCP server outside of what Anthropic had been doing. And the biggest question was, and I don't know if you've heard this, but how much adoption would it get? Not just my project, I mean MCP in general. And the critical thing was, would OpenAI actually adopt it? And they did. And so now you're seeing thousands. I mean, I can't even count the amount of MCP servers, and they're everywhere. They're inside your IDE. They're literally everywhere. So it's a really interesting way to standardize access to tools for LLMs. So I'm not going to go into the details here, but basically the specifications allows you to call a tool, to send a prompt, to read resources, all kinds of different things that you can implement or not. You don't have to implement all of it. And so this is what was done for Unomi. So basically, here is a way to make this work all together. So you have the Claude AI, LLM, the MCP server, which is a small layer that will bridge the calls from the AI to Apache Unomi. Then Unomi can have its UI on top of it, which actually is still under construction in my company, but we might open source it. And then finally, you could have, this is not something that I'll show you now because it's not available, but you could have also a privacy control panel saying, okay, I want to delete this or stuff like that. But as you see in the demo, you can already do quite a lot just by using the chat. So the key components. So I talked about the MCP server already. So it's just the term MCP server is kind of a misnomer. I prefer the term driver or connector because it just means that it's a piece of software that sits between the AI and another server. So they call it MCP server. I think it's a bit strange, but the consent manager that can manage the consents for the users, the profile storage, and the event handlers. And by the way, the MCP server is of course open source, and I put a link to the GitHub here, but you'll find it also on the web elsewhere. So how does this work? So Claude initiates a request. So it's through the MCP protocol, and then the MCP will query the profiles inside the CDP. Unomi responds, and what's really interesting is as these LLMs can understand data the same way they understand text, it will personalize the response. It will build something. Well, you'll see the demo. I think it speaks for itself. But you're not just going to see JSON as a result. That's really the cool thing. And I did nothing. I mean, in the MCP server is just giving it JSON. And you'll see the result. It's pretty surprising. Just a quick word about data sovereignty. I talked about this very quickly, but I think it's a very important point. So you can have first-party data and third-party data. So this is what I talked about when you're sending data, for example, to Google or somebody else. And now it's becoming more and more important for companies to understand these choices and to make sure that they're not sending data to other companies and losing control of it. That's the biggest problem. It's not necessarily to outsource things. I mean, that's fine. But to lose control of it is a big issue, and especially losing control of the raw data. It also has implications in terms of compliance. And so the more third parties you have, the more complex your compliance is. I mean, I don't need to talk about, I know maybe I'm the only one reading these, but if you look at privacy policies where you have hundreds of companies listed, it's crazy. And it's a competitive advantage as well. If you have your data and you have control over it, you can do a lot more than if you're sending it to somebody else. Because maybe down the road you'll think, oh, maybe I want to train my own LLM or whatever with the data. And one other thing that's possible, and I don't show this today, but I've done demos where I have the whole system running on my laptop. So you can control how much dependency you have on other systems. And you can say, for example, I don't want to send anything to the public internet. You can do that. All right, so we've arrived to the time of the live demo. So here, I'm not going to go too much into the details here, but what we're going to see is an AI assistant with product memory. So there are different parts of this. There's the profiles, and there's also, I'm using a small database, SQLite database that contains bakery products. So, like croissants or whatever. And we'll see what we can do with that. So let's go into, so as Claude and Anthropic were the first to propose this, they are also the best in terms of testing your server. So if you want to test your server, it's really easy to do. So the way you do this is that basically you just give this configuration file to Claude. And what it does is that it lists the MCP servers. So you can see here we have two. We have the Unomi server here with its configuration. And then you have the bakery product server, which is basically just another server that was not written by me. This was written actually by Anthropic, I think. That's just accessing an SQLite database in the file. Very basic stuff. So what I can do now is I can come back to, no, that's not it. There we go. So here I can, for example, say, let's say I want to query the bakery database. So I can just say, what bakery products do you have? And I'm not telling it to use a tool or something. So it's automatically said that it's going to use the read query tool inside the, it figured that out. And it's giving me here the list of products that are in the database. So again, you see the formatting is really nice. It's very readable and everything. Now, let's say what is in my profile? So now it's going to look for a profile somewhere, and so it's resolved it automatically in the Unomi server. It figured out which one to use, and it's now printing everything that's inside my customer profile. And you can see here that there's quite a few things I've already put in it, and one of them is the allergies to gluten. So I said that yeah, I'm allergic to gluten, so I could say which products should I avoid buying. Again, here I'm not telling it, if I'm allergic or anything. So we'll see if it can figure it out. So there you go. It figured out that I'm allergic to gluten from my profile. And it automatically queried the database of the products, which also has information about the ingredients. And I could very easily say, could you remember that I'm an Apache member and speaker? So this has nothing to do with the bakery product, clearly. But here, it's just going to update my profile. And automatically, it's doing it in a format that's going to be easy to reuse by other tools. and I could just do anything with it. I could also say, could you forget? Actually, this is a good question. I'm not sure if that'll work, but you know, could you forget I'm allergic to gluten? So here I'm not sure if that'll work because I'm not sure if I implemented the deletion, but we'll figure out if I found a way to do it by itself. So this is really what I'm talking about. These things, you can think of the LLM like a new interface on top of these systems. And yeah, input should be available. Okay, so I guess it didn't figure it out. So yeah, there we go. We had a demo effect. But anyway, to just say that this is, for example, I talk about the consents, and I can actually, can you store the fact that I don't consent to share my email? So here I'm taking a risk because I know I have not implemented the way to handle consents in Unomi, but the question is, it can access the structure of the way that the profiles are stored. And I need to see if it actually did the right thing or not. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to access, sorry, that's not it. So Unomi provides a REST API. And so it should be Claude Profile ID. Yeah, there we go. And so here I can see the JSON, and I can see how it's stored all my data. And as you can see here, it's stored some of the data that we just inserted, Apache speaker member. And we also have the allergy here to gluten, the number of visits, and so forth. So the demo that I'm showing you now is limited by what was implemented in the MCP server. I could implement consent management. I could, for example, ask it to store every single one of my prompts, and it would remember all of them forever, because as events, and I could then query those events. I could have it trigger rules that, based on what I'm doing in the LLM, trigger other systems to be updated. There's really no limit to this. And for me, the biggest sort of illumination, if I can say, is this fact that you can give LLMs this unlimited memory. And you can, let's imagine that you're following these customers over dozens of years. You could query over those dozens of years in LLMs, and I mean, you can do sentiment analysis that you could store in this. You could do, you know, like better customer support. You could forward things to other systems. It's really quite interesting what it enables. All right, so that's mostly of. Let me see where. I think I lost my window now. Nope. There we go. So if you want to play with this, as I said, it's open source. You can just clone the repository. You can install your own Unomi instance. You just have to then configure any provider keys for AIs, because one of the things I didn't mention is I did the demo with Claude, but now there's almost every single, there's even tools like the Cursor IDE that support MCP servers. So you could do this anywhere. If you wanted, for example, to have consent, you could also have a UI to manage the consents and stuff like that. And that's it. So if you're interested in helping out also, we are always interested in having more people either use or help us develop Unomi. The MCP protocol specification is also still under development, but it's getting pretty stable. And everything you've seen here, including the slides, will be put on the Unomi server, the Unomi website, sorry. And if you need to reach me after the talk, my email address is shuber@apache.org. All right, so I'm concluded with my slides, and I'm open for questions. I think we still have a little bit of time. Or?
Yeah, you have 13 minutes.
I'm sorry?
13.
Okay.
So you had said earlier you'd run the whole demo on your laptop, but the Claude interaction goes off, doesn't run on your laptop, correct?
Yeah, so that's the only part that's not running. But I already have a prototype of a chat interface with a local LLM. I could run the whole thing on my laptop, yeah. No data needs to go anywhere. Yeah. That's sort of when my company will actually be offering something like that, a chat system that's not dependent on because the the MCP specification covers both the client and the server. So you can build your own clients very easily as well without having to license anything. So yeah, it's totally possible to do a thing that's completely on-premise, for example, in the case of a company, and do all of that without depending on anybody or sending any data, which is also very interesting, for example, in Europe, where there's a lot of concern about depending on systems outside of Europe. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Awesome, thank you.
Probably a slightly naive question, but your demo was interesting and good also in that it blew up at some point, and that was because of the query that you put in. So is there any way of actually catching queries or checking for queries that could, or that do cause errors in the back end, and actually presenting those in a slightly more user-friendly way?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Saying, sorry, I can't do that, come back tomorrow or something.
Well, I mean, it depends really where it fails, but
Sure.
yeah, you could definitely in the MCP server or even in the server, I mean, the system that's being called back there, do any checks. Here, which part were you talking about?
Oh, where you tried to get it to update the policy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously there was an exception.
Well, that was really mostly because the MCP server was incomplete. I was trying live something I had never even designed it for.
It'll never be complete in the universal sense. So
Yeah.
I still ask it to do something that's just physically impossible.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just gonna give an error, and then the LLM will interpret that error in some way. But you can also, the protocol also allows you to actually say, this is a failure, I just didn't implement that. So it can actually, or you could, you can also fail it before. So if you, because basically when you declare your server, your implementation, you also declare which parameters you accept. And so you could just say, this is the content of this parameter is invalid before you even go any further. And that's really interesting to do, because if you do that, the LLM might try to reformat that parameter into something that it will understand. So that's really cool, because for example, if you say it's trying to pass an integer and it's a string, and for some reason it didn't understand that, it will fail the call, and if you tell it it's because you passed an integer instead of a string, and then it will convert it automatically and it will do it. So that's pretty fun.
Building on that, when something like that happens, does the failing query get logged so that you could then look at the log and parse out to give you ideas for future enhancements?
Yeah, so at least in Claude, it has really a really nice way of doing that. So if I go here into troubleshooting and show logs in Finder, so this is because it's running locally, and so here I have the global MCP logs, so that's the logs for everything, and then it separates the logs per server. So I could see the logs of the Unomi server separate from the logs of my database. So yeah, I can definitely use that and say, okay, this is what happened, and figure out the problem. So this is over multiple days. This is why this is so big.
And JSON, so it can be parsed by standard tools.
Yes. Yeah.
Very nice.
Any other questions?
So what is the persistent storage for like unlimited memory for?
Oh yeah. So in this case, so Unomi has two backends. I mean, for the moment, mostly Elasticsearch, and for the new version that's coming out, it'll also support OpenSearch. So it's unlimited, you know, in quotes, of course, but it can scale pretty big.
I see. So when it comes to scaling, then it will support to like clusterings or
Yes.
sharding and stuff.
Yeah. And again, you have to compare that to a solution with like Claude, where they have to store it for the whole world. Here, you're talking about storing it for your own customers. So that means that you don't have the same storage requirements, you know, because you don't have to. So it can be very big and still be very useful for large customer bases.
One more. So
Sure.
for now, like we are using the MCP for the interfaces, but if the data is stored in the like OpenSearch or Elasticsearch,
Mhm.
can we directly access to these search engines and then
Yes.
program it here?
Yes, that's one of the beauties of open source software is that you can do it at multiple levels. You could do it either at the, so if you don't use the MCP, you could use it at the Unomi level, which has its own REST API, or you could go all the way down to the Elasticsearch or the OpenSearch and use their APIs to do things. So yeah, you have those different options to use. All right. Well, I'm available if you want to, you know, ask questions directly. But thank you very much for your attention.